What was the initial release in Japan like? Did the Japanese consumer really love this game? How did it start out the gate?
Well, out of the gate, it was fine. It was a little bit lukewarm. They had missed the holiday end of year season where you really want to be publishing a game. And so February is a tough month for sales. And the game came out, it was in like the top 10 of rankings. You know, it was getting 7 out of 10 from reviewers at the time. But it wasn't until the discovery of a secret Pokemon that the game really took off. Um, in the final stages of development, Nintendo told Game Freak, besides debugging the game, you're done. You cannot keep touching it. You cannot keep fussing with it. You're hands off. And through the debugging process, they found a minuscule little sliver of extra memory space. And as a little prank or inside joke within the office, one of the developers snuck in Mew, a Pokemon that had come up in, if you're reading the books that are in the laboratories as it relates to Mewtwo's lore, Mew was mentioned. Mew's probably planned for a future sequel, or they're like, we're going to put Mew in, and maybe someday we can do, an event and actually unlock Mew for people in their games, but nobody will be any the wiser. And we'll just know this. So they thought. Intrepid gamers were able to get into the game and find Mew. And it became sort of this truly viral like moment in these early years of the internet where people were not only like, oh my gosh, did you know if you go behind this truck or underneath it, my uncle works at Nintendo and he told me this secret, and these rampant lies and rumors and forums that were talking about how to unlock this Pokemon. You also had magazines that were set to promote, comics that were set to promote the issue that released at the time. Everyone was advertising this game with 150 Pokemon. Very quickly, people were writing in, being like, no, it's actually 151 because of how quickly that exploitable bug happened. So then it became a little bit of a moment around it. And very quickly, then people started being able to actually get Mew into their games. The Game Freak would hold events and be like, all right, we'll come and unlock it. And Pokemon went from just, a typical RPG that was entering a market akin to like, a Final Fantasy game into something that became a little bit more of a phenomenon.
Courtney, are you saying that a little bit of controversy helps sell media franchises?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people love thinking they got one over on, an expert, but the controversy and just the secrecy and the mystery around it too. And again, at these early days of the internet where you're not inundated with viral videos, you're not inundated with as many opportunities to come together as a community for a secret, this was primed to really be one of the first moments of true kindling for the video game industry.
So they release Red and Green, and as this controversy kind of builds up, they get more and more exposure. The game becomes a phenomenon. How soon did they realize that they struck gold on this and then started iterating and creating sequels?
Well, the development team actually started working on gold and silver before they even knew that they struck gold. That they were not necessarily seeing the sales reports. They would see some checks come in, but they knew that it was good enough that they would do a sequel. They always wanted to do a sequel. They released so many more Pokemon with it. They had even bigger visions for what this game could be. And in interviews at the time, they were very candid that they were not even given a vacation or a break to celebrate. But it wasn't until they were really going into game stores themselves and seeing it fly off the shelves that they experienced the phenomenon around this. But yeah, it was a little bit slow of a realization for them because they had their heads down working on gold and silver already. Not much of a vacation at all.
So they start working on the sequel right away. They start seeing this become a phenomenon. Now they start franchising and merchandising, licensing things out. What other media properties did they create outside the video game?
So right away, we very quickly had manga series. Ken Sugimura actually worked on some of them. The anime with Ash was a version of Satoshi initially. You had movies that came out, toys, and of course, the very successful card game that came out later in the year that Pokemon released in Japan.
They got a hit video game. They've got multimedia with the TV series. They got manga. They got collectibles. They have just general merchandise. Now they go, okay, let's expand overseas. When did the game arrive in the United States, and what did they have to do to adjust Pocket Monsters for the United States market?
Yeah. So it arrived in the United States in 1998. And Nintendo of America spent 2 years really creating a media blitz for this game. First off, they were not negotiating. They were not just going to bring red and blue. They said if we're going to have red and green, which then became blue as one of the changes for the US audiences. But they said if we're going to bring it, we're going to bring everything. And we're not going to work with 15 different licensors. So the Pokemon company, as it became at this time, had to wrangle their different licensors and different platforms into a deal that Nintendo of America could then work with as simply as possible. So they began work on localizing the game. Now, that doesn't just mean translating the game into English and creating, a port that would work on North American devices. They had to adapt the game so that it resonated with English audiences in the same way that it resonates with Japanese audiences. Most of the Pokemon, this is still true today, end up with entirely different names than the Japanese translations, with the exception of some franchise mainstays like Pikachu, Mew, and Mewtwo, and other mythicals today. They also removed and edited cultural references that might trip up an American kid, so that it didn't feel like a game about somewhere else. It felt like a game around your childhood experience just as much as it was about Tajiri's childhood experience. And then when it came down to release it, well before the Pokemon games even arrived on shelves, Nintendo of America used their successful Nintendo Power magazine to tease and promote Pokemon coming to the US. These are the characters, these are the monsters. Each month we're getting a new teaser and build hype around the game. The anime came here first. They would leverage that Saturday morning cartoon block that so many millennials remember. And then they even used Nintendo Power's mailing list to send these VHS tapes into every household that's subscribed to Nintendo Power with a video that touted, here's Professor Oak, here are the Pokemon, here's what the game's all about. So by the time that Pokemon Red and Blue actually released on shelves, Nintendo of America had created a legion of children eagerly anticipating this game and parents desperate to get it before it sells out.